We just got back from the cruise, 35-night cruise from Southampton, across via the Canaries to the Caribbean, tour around some of the Caribbean islands and then come back via the Canaries into Madeira and then back home. Was it worth it? Well, actually, we had a fantastic time. So the cruise itself was quite expensive. It cost us £8.5 grand. We did get an awful lot of onboard spend. So I'm going to come on to the first tip really in terms of the cost of these cruises. The demand of cruises have gone through the roof since COVID, particularly on the larger ships. So the ships that we go on, like the Iona and the Arvia, they are large ships, they're very popular ships. They do get booked up very, very quickly. So the first tip is as soon as they release the cruises, that's the best time to book. Now, it kind of goes against the grain a little bit in my sort of way of thinking. You always think you're going to get a last minute deal. There are certain cruise liners that you will get last minute deals on, but for the more popular ships, particularly the Iona and the Arvia, as soon as they release the cruises, that's the best time to buy. Just to put it into perspective, we paid £8.5 when it was first released for a balcony cabin. We had £1,800 worth of onboard spend, which is quite a lot more than some of the people we're speaking to on the ship itself. But then we got speaking to people who booked it after it had been released sort of 6 months or so. They normally book about 18 months in advance, and they were paying like 10 grand. And there was a story of a couple who booked this time next year whilst on the ship, and they wanted, and it's gone up to 12.5 grand, which is an awful lot of money. So the first tip is really, if you know where you want to go, book as soon as it's released, particularly if you're on the popular ships, because of the demand. It kind of goes the other way. Book early, that's when you're going to get the best price, is a general rule of thumb. Balconies are expensive. So the reason why we go balconies is because we like to have the balcony door open, hear the sea, get the fresh air, all that kind of stuff. Particularly around the Caribbean, we'll sleep with the balcony door open at night, and it's really, really nice and relaxing. But the reason why we find that that's important to us, because every room every cabin on these ships, they've all got air conditioning. So it keeps you obviously cool or warm. It does both the heating and the air conditioning itself, but you can't turn them off. So without the ability to open a window or get some fresh air in, you do tend to get a sore throat. That said, speaking to a couple on the cruise this time round, what they do is they buy a little humidifier, put it in the room, you can charge them up on USBs, and that sorts the issue out straight away. You don't get sore throats at all. Some people said if you actually get an ice bucket and bring it into your room and take the lid off, that also works. Which is a game changer for us because we buy a balcony cabin purely for that. We don't use the balcony that much. I do a little bit, but not that much. But to put it into perspective, we paid £8.5 grand for this particular cruise for balcony. We got speaking to a couple who booked at the same time when we booked the balcony for the same cruise, but on an inside cabin. They paid just over £4 grand. So it's a massive difference. A sea view is slightly more. So this is a cabin with a window. You tend to have a box seat. You can sit in. You still see the sea and everything, but obviously it's just like a window, as it were, that you can't open. That's around £6 grand. So it is a big, big difference. So the balconies are the most expensive rooms on there, apart from the suites. But you do get value if you get the internal balcony. The same couple that we're speaking to book early, they've actually booked a cruise that was first released from Southampton across to Brazil and then back again. It's a 22-night cruise, and they've managed to get an inside cabin for £950. That's for the pair of them. But clear, it doesn't include any onboard spend or anything like that, but for that sort of money, you can actually get the bargains. But the key is book as soon as they're released. The other thing to say as well, whilst you're on the cruise, they do have a cruise desk and you can book your future cruises and all that kind of stuff. But do your research, because we had a story of a couple who went on there and booked this same cruise for next year whilst on the cruise, and it cost them £12.5 grand for a balcony cabin, when actually they paid £600 deposit, and then they managed to find exactly the same room on the same ship, on the same itinerary, everything, for about £8.5 grand. So they cancelled the £12.5 grand, lost the £600 deposit, and paid £8.5 grand through a specialist cruise travel agents. That's the other tip. Always look around. But as soon as they released, that's the best time to buy these cruises. 35-night cruise, long time. My biggest concern with this was there's a lot of sea days. I think I said on the video, we booked the Sanctuary, which is a nice area at the front of the ship. So you always get a seat. It's very, very pleasant. And that's the next tip. So if you want to book the Sanctuary, they don't release the Sanctuary tickets for sale until a year prior to cruise. So typically speaking, a lot of the cruise itineraries, they tend to release, certainly the longer ones, probably 2 years in advance, 18 months, 2 years in advance. So that's the time to book. But they won't release Sanctuary tickets until 1 year prior to departure. So Hayley and I have booked to go on a Caribbean, where we fly out to the Caribbean, we do back-to-back in the Caribbean, then we sail back to Southampton for March 27. So what we tend to do is set a little reminder in our diary on the day a year prior to ship due to leave. So in a couple of weeks' time in March, we'll be ringing up to book the Sanctuary. So and that's the best time to do that, and you'll get those because they do sell out very, very quickly. They tend to hold a few places back, but typically for those that are buying day passes when they're on the ship itself. But you won't get the full sort of cruise available Sanctuary pass unless you book it early. The other thing, the 35-night cruise, a lot of sea days, but very relaxing. There's loads of things to do on the ship. We have the internet package. That's the other hint and tip, I suppose. My wife has a business, so we are able to buy the internet package for the business. It can be expensive. For the whole cruise, the 5 weeks, it costs us £500, which is a lot of money to access the internet just for one device. So we keep switching it over. And we do it, check emails and lots of stuff. But I do it, listen to the radio and listen to Talk Sport and watch videos and all that good stuff, whilst my wife's sort of doing a arts and crafts thing, which she likes to do. So I found it very, very relaxing, listening to Talk Sport, sitting in the Sanctuary, drinking a beer or two. Beautiful. So I had a really good time. It's fantastic. So that's the other tip. So the internet package can be expensive, but we heard of a couple that they do offers every now and then, where they did a Blue Monday sale, I think they called it, and they got the same internet package for us for about £300. So as I say, Hayley put it through her business because she needed to check her emails and do bits anyway, so that was fine. So 35-night cruise. The other thing, pluses and minuses. The good thing is, because it's such a long cruise, you get to know the staff really well. So you build up a bit of a rapport with the various different team members and you have a good laugh. I met quite a few good friends there. We had a beer with a couple of them on one of the ports, which was nice. And you get to know the guests really well as well. You build up a bit of a community because you're seeing each other every day, particularly if you're sitting in the same spot each day where you go to the part of the ship where you like. In our case, in the Sanctuary, we get to know all the people in there and we have you get to know them all and it's really nice. The people on the cruise, quite often, inevitably, it's a 35-night cruise. Not a lot of people can take that sort of time off work. So you do get a lot of retirees on the cruise, a lot of older people. I would say 80% of the cruise ship this time around were probably the older generation. So speak to them. They give an awful lot of advice in terms of where best to go. All their experience is fantastic. We found that brilliant. We spoke to quite a few people who've done a number of world cruises, some of the places that they've been, the ports that we were due to go to, what to do when you get to those ports, because they've been there numerous times, that sort of stuff. So that's always valuable source of information, as well as forums. So lots of Facebook forums out there geared for these cruises. Again, those people imparting the knowledge on those forums, so that's always a useful place to go as well. We were very fortunate on this cruise. Weather was fantastic, smooth all the way out, all the way back until we got to Madeira. So when we left Madeira, we had heavy swell seas from Madeira up to the Bay of Biscay, through the Bay of Biscay and into the English Channel. So probably 3 days of heavy seas. I think we got up to swells at one point about 8 or 9 metres. But to be fair, the larger ships coped with it really, really well. We had a gentle rocking, through the night on the worst night. That was about it. It looked more dramatic than what it was when you went walk about on the ship. You saw the size of the waves. And the swells rather. It looked very, very impressive, and the ship coped with it beautifully. It just cut through it. The smaller ships, you do feel it a lot. We've been on the Princess before through the Bay of Biscay, where we had swells of 4 or 5 metres, and that was a lot worse than going through 8-9 metres on the Iona. So the smaller ships are, you do feel it a bit, particularly through the Bay of Biscay. That said, the smaller ships do offer you better itineraries sometimes. They go into the more ports. The larger ships can only go into the ports that can support a depth of 10 metres, whereas the smaller ships can go into ports that go up to sort of 6 metres. So you quite often get a lot better itineraries for the smaller ships. So they are good for around the Mediterranean, that sort of stuff. You'll get a lot of decent places. Sicily's a one way. The larger ships can't go into Sicily, so you tend to moor up out in the sea and you get water taxis in and out, whereas the smaller ships can get into port. So that's the other thing to mention. What else? So I mentioned the sanctuary, mentioned the pricing, book early. Food, fantastic. So we had, there's an onboard buffet, loads of different choice. In the 35 nights that we were there, I think we only did the buffet once for an evening meal. We ate predominantly in this fine dining. You go into the dining areas where it's table service. That's all part and parcel of the deal. Then you've got specialty restaurants, which we use a lot as well. Because we had quite a lot of onboard spend, we'd use that for specialty restaurants. So we're in the steakhouse, the curry house, the Epicurean, the fine dining restaurants a few times. And after spending our onboard money, our bill at the end of it was 250 quid. So we spent £250 for 35 nights for our drinks and our food and everything and our excursions and that sort of stuff, because we had quite a lot of onboard spend to start with. So it was reasonable value as far as I'm concerned. It was very good. So downside, I guess, if you haven't got access to the sanctuary, inevitably you'll get a sunny side of the ship and a non-sunny side of the ship, depending on which way you're going. Sunny side of the ships, the decks get very, very busy. So you will get a spot, but you might not necessarily get the spot you want unless you get out early. So the decks can get very, very busy. This is why we like the sanctuary, because we get exactly the same spot. We know everybody in there after a day or two, and it becomes really, really nice. It's very relaxing, and we just no need to worry. But there can be a bit of a scramble to get the best spots. That's the only thing. But having said that, there's an awful lot to do in the ship. There's loads of places. There's the Crow's Nest, a nice sort of cocktail bar. There's Anderson, a nice gin bar with like a library and all the games and all that kind of stuff. And there's also a sky dome area with an indoor swimming pool and nice seating area and that in there. But on the sunnier days, you'll get a spot outside, but it can get busy. That's the other thing. This time round, 35 nights, we decided to go down via the coach, save a 5-week car park. I did that predominantly because I thought the car park was going to be expensive, but we've since learned if you book a car park for 2 weeks down in Southampton, when you go to 5 weeks, there's not a great deal of difference in what you pay for the car park. So there is a difference between 1 week and 2 weeks, but once you get beyond 2 weeks, let's say, for example, 2 weeks car park costs you 180 quid, 150 quid, 5-week car park costs about 180. There's not a lot in it, which I didn't appreciate. So we got the coach thinking that the car park was going to be very expensive, but actually it wasn't too. But from speaking to other people, it doesn't work like that. That said, the coach was very good. We got straight in. We were the first on the ship. There's no faffing about, and we're the first off the ship because they prioritise coach travel first. So when you're getting off the ship, you can imagine it's a large logistical challenge. When you get into Southampton, there's 12,000 bags to get off the ship. With 5,500 guests to get off the ships. They do it in an order, and as I say, if you're on a coach trip, it tends to be prioritised, so you're the first off the ship. We had our window of time of 7 o'clock in the morning. By 8 o'clock we were out of Southampton. It was very easy. So that's the other thing. If you want to go on the coach, it works really, really well, and it's quite relaxing. What else? So Caribbean, beautiful. Lots of things to do. If you're booking excursions, we historically have always booked excursions through the cruise line, in this case P&O. They do offer good excursions. The reason why we've been doing that is as a bit of a safety net, because if there's any delay in the excursion itself, the ship can't leave without you, because it's an excursion that's being driven by the cruise liner. They have to wait. But they are a little bit more expensive than what you can do if you were to book through local tour operators. So, for example, in Caribbean, there's a company called Caribbean Island Tours, and they offer a whole range of tours across the different islands, and they're very competitive. So if you're looking to do a half-day excursion, you want to go in the morning, and the ship, you've got to be on board the ship by say 6 p.m. or whatever it is. If you're leaving at 10 in the morning, just book locally. There's no worry about a safety net. Having said that, I haven't heard any stories of the local excursion people being late anyway. They're all very, very good. They always tend to plan the trips so you're back to the ship at least an hour before you're due to go on. So I haven't heard of any stories of any issues, but yeah, again, you get all this information on the forums, so have a look on the forums, you'll find all that out for yourselves. But yeah, very good. Totally enjoyed it. We're back now. We've got some more trips planned later on in the year. I'll do some more of these videos. I'll try and keep them as informative and as real as possible. Apologies about the technology. I lost my mic in whilst we're on tour, but we'll replace that, and we'll do some more next time we go away. So hopefully you've enjoyed the videos. I'll put some links in the video below on this one, so you can see the various different videos that we've done at the various different spots. But yeah, highly recommend. 35-night cruise. Missed all of the weather in the UK, all of January, all of the horrible weather everybody suffered, and we were enjoying 27, 28, 29 degrees sunshine in the Caribbean. Bye-bye for now.